Convene this planning board meeting and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Whoops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Sorry, I think I did that. Okay. We will start with the approval of the June 25th Planning Board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
We have a raised hand.
Oh,
Yes.
I actually had some revisions, if that's okay.
Okay, yep, I'm gonna just second and then.
Yep.
Is there a second?
second.
Okay. Comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that's the order, isn't it? I had, I think, 3 things. I wasn't sure. I thought we had discussed with item number 5, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. We had talked about, for item number 5, which was the food truck, we had talked that there wouldn't be a use of generators. It says to minimize noise disturbance to neighbors, no music, alcohol, or generators will be allowed. But we had talked about, like, if there was in fact a power outage, that generators could be allowed.
Okay, well, yeah, you can add that into the conditions of approval, because these aren't the conditions.
Right, okay.
Well, they're just
That's fine.
discussion.
Okay, and then let me make sure, for item number 6, I'm just not sure if, like, city council refers to minutes in terms of things that they look at. For item number 6, it starts with some board members supported allowing apartments in commercial zones, and it talks about April opposed allowing more housing in unhealthy areas. I supported April's position as well.
Yeah, so I guess we should amend that to say April
Okay.
and Hillary.
And then there's a typo in action number 2. I don't know if anyone cares. It says the board postpone, and it should read the board postponed its vote.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, those in favor with approving the minutes as amended? Anybody opposed? Okay. Now, item number 2, disclosure of conflict of interest. Do any board members have any conflicts on the votes that they're going to take tonight?
I'm going to recuse myself on item number 4. I recused myself last year. I'm going to just have continuity, recuse myself tonight.
And I will also recuse myself on item number 4, like I did in the original vote.
Point of order, do we have enough to vote on them then?
We did it last time.
Yeah,
know.
it's not, this isn't an ordinance,
Yeah.
so
It's okay. Okay.
Okay. Number 3, Hill Hospitality is requesting a 3-year extension to complete the construction, 3-year extension to begin and finish construction of a hotel on Armory Road. And they weren't able to join us, but did everybody get a copy of the letter, Ann?
Yes.
Okay. We did get a copy of the letter. Tom, do you mind just reading the letter?
Sure, I'll read it. Dear members of the board, on behalf of Hill Hospitality, Sebago Technics respectfully requests a 3-year extension of the final major site plan approvals of the Home 2 Suites project located at 75 Armory Road, Waterville, Maine. The project was approved by the Waterville Planning Board at their meeting on February 13, 2024. The applicant has been working diligently towards the start of construction for the project. The final building construction documents are anticipated to be completed by the winter of 2024. Due to the potential for challenging winter construction conditions, construction will align with ground thaw in spring of 2025. This will be shortly after the one-year approval date to commence construction. February 13, 2025, per Chapter 224-7.4, final approval and filing. Hill Hospitality anticipates the site construction to be completed by summer 2026. The application is filing for the full 3 approval extension to relieve any future needs to come back to the board during the construction of the project. The approved plan conforms to the zoning in effect at the time of this extension request. We are hopeful that sufficient information is enclosed to permit the request approval extension. Upon review of the submission, if you or your staff have any questions or comments regarding this extension request or require additional information, please contact me. Sincerely, Sebago Technics, Henry A. Hess.
Okay. I guess is there any discussion from the board about approving the request? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the extension.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All right, Kennebec Realty Partners is requesting a 3-year extension to begin and finish construction of the apartments at 155 and 165 Main Street.
Good evening. I'm Tom Dupre, and I'm with Kennebec Realty Partners. And Kennebec Realty Partners is moving forward with Maine Housing for the development and construction of affordable workforce apartments in the buildings at 165 Main Street. The 165 Main Street project is one of 5 projects that was selected from over 30 applicants throughout the state of Maine under the Rural Affordable Rental Housing Program. Excuse me. The site plan was approved by the Planning Board on July 25th, 2023, and there are no changes to the site plan. To move forward with Maine Housing, we will need a site plan extension. A 3-year site plan extension to begin and complete the project will eliminate any future need to come back to the Planning Board during the construction of the project. So that's what we're requesting. We're requesting a 3-year extension.
Any discussion? Okay, motion?
What is the timeline for the apartments?
The timeline, well, we're trying to move forward as fast as possible with Maine Housing. It's a state agency, so we are, I'd say probably sometime towards the end of this year, beginning of next year for the beginning of construction.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion to approve? Or do you have to say?
You can do it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion.
And I will second the motion.
All those in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, item number 5. We're really, Popo is requesting a final plan review for Popo's Food Truck Court. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I know you have some revised plans, Jeff, so I'll let you pull those up for the board.
So you gave us some really good, I'm sorry, I'm Jeff Allen from A.E. Hudson Engineers, just to make it official. You gave us some great ideas last time we met, and we tried to incorporate as many of those as possible. And some other issues have come up, and we've been able to address those as well. So the original plan, I think we had 10 food trucks on here, and 17 parking spaces for guests. that wasn't enough, and I think you wisely pointed out that that's kind of, doesn't allow any opportunity for, people to get there. So what we've done now is gone from 10 food truck spaces down to 6, and those are spaced around here and down this side here. By doing so, we've been able to create some additional parking out in the east side of this lot out front. So we have a total of 25 spaces now for customers. And we also created a space out back here for employee parking. That way, folks that come and are supplying the food trucks or working at the food trucks will have a place to park. And the only entrance for this employee parking area is, again, through the front off of Kennedy Memorial Drive. We've got signage here that says employee parking only. That goes with a lot of the other signs on the site that kind of direct traffic where folks are allowed to go and where they're not. One other thing that we had not put on here is a landscape buffer. That was in the ordinance, in the zoning ordinance. And so these, we're showing trees around here. They're essentially about 15 feet on center. And this is a 15-foot setback from the property line out on Merrithew. And rather than going the full length of the property line and just creating an unknown row of trees in the middle of there, we just tied it back into the side of the garage that's existing on site now. We put the dumpster out here. It's going to be in an enclosure, but of course, bless you, that has to be at least 20 feet away from any buildings or from the food trucks. Now, one of the issues that we've come up with is water and sewer. Again, we're having city water and city sewer here. With most of these food trucks, if they're frying something or just doing dishes, they're going to have a wastewater that we had originally proposed to dispose of on site. After some discussions with the sewer department, they said if we wanted to dump water from the food trucks, it would be, we'd need to have an oil water separator, just a grease trap essentially to make sure that any grease from the trucks wouldn't go into the city sewer system. What I think we talked about a little bit last time, and we've now formally agreed to not allow the food trucks to dump their wastewater on site. They'll have to take that off site and dump it as if they were doing this somewhere else. So that'll be written into the contract that they have with Popo for displaying the truck. We talked about the no generators issue. I do remember that. And so to make sure that we don't have generators, we're going to have little pylons next to where the trucks are going to be parked with underground power coming out of the garage that's there. There'll be underground cabling coming out and being set up next to each of the parking spaces so that they can just plug in there and use shore power or whatever mains power for all of these, for the 6 trucks. I think that's a major, we'd shown a fence over here on this side, but we didn't have it labeled. We've got that labeled now. That'll be stockade fencing on this side by the neighbor, and again over here by the neighbor, along the back of the front lot, the KMD side lot, and again next to the neighbor down here for this property. So it'll be a stockade fence kind of blocking that, so any sort of debris or whatever, we won't have people traipsing across the neighbors' yards. Out back here, this I got a call today from the planner and said, that's an awful lot of trees out there. Because, it's, the ordinance calls for a landscaped buffer. We're putting in maybe more trees than we need, but we want to protect the folks out on Merrifield from, excuse me, from headlight sweep or from trying to mitigate the noise as much as possible. I think that's going to do the best by putting, and these trees are spaced like every 15 feet, sort of in that zigzag pattern. When you put in trees, these are going to be evergreens that are required by the ordinance. You put in 4 or 5 foot trees, and this will look like a lot of space between them. But in 5 or 10 years, they'll grow up and fill that space pretty robustly, I think. So those are the changes we made, I think, mainly in response to discussions we had with you. So be happy to answer any other questions you've got.
Great. Questions for Jeff?
I have a few questions. Jeff, I think the new site plan is a great improvement. I think it looks really nice. I had 3 questions. You're not going to be disposing of wastewater, but are you going to be supplying any water on site?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there will be in this little building that's out front here, they will have access to a hose, so they could fill tanks there and have fresh water. That's kind of been on the plan all along. But they'd be collecting that either with hoses from here. There won't be taps at each parking space.
I suppose you'd have to stay on top of your prospective tenants so they don't just dump water onto the grass or some,
Yeah, that's totally an operational thing that
Okay.
Popo will be able to monitor.
Is this parking area paved, or is it gravel or whatever?
Right now, we're proposing gravel.
Gravel, okay. And will they paint like stall lines, like for parking stalls on, like?
These are more schematic, you might say. But, I mean, we could, it's hard to paint gravel.
Okay.
I think we will have some areas, like out front here, you can't have parking within a certain distance from KMD. So that's why we ended up losing a parking space here, was just to meet that setback, the parking setback from there. And these all have a 5-foot parking setback between the edge of where the parking lot is and the fence is 5 feet, so that, and that's required for all of the parking setbacks.
I noticed on the site plan it said that no survey was performed. You took this layout from GIS?
Yeah, the
data?
city's GIS mapping, yes.
Okay. Has there been there's no survey of this property whatsoever?
Not to my knowledge,
Yeah.
no. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Popo provided a survey to me today, so she had the
Oh.
front of,
Okay.
okay.
she had the front of the property surveyed. I have a copy of it if you want to see it.
There aren't any easement issues or any other thing? Did you discover anything that's not today?
I don't believe so.
Okay, okay. Anything, okay, nothing. Next question, I have, I noticed the fire department's letter, 10, per NFPA 1.50.7.1.5 separation, mobile or temporary cooking operations shall be separated from buildings or structures, combustible materials, vehicles, and other cooking operations by a minimum of 10 feet. And,
We have at least 10 feet between each of the parking spaces.
okay, from the
Yeah.
food truck to the front of the parking stall, is that what you're?
That's less than 10 feet there. So if there, we've got 10 feet here, because these stalls are 10 feet wide. So we have 10 feet in front here. The only areas where we may not have it would be these 2 here that wouldn't be separated from the parking lot. That would, we would lose 4 parking spaces if that became an issue.
And in the back, there's 10 feet from any stockade fence or?
Yes.
anything? Okay, that's all good, all right. And my third thing was, from the fire department, The exit onto KMD is only 12 feet per NFPA guidelines. The fire department access road shall maintain an unobstructed width of not less than 20 feet. Does the fire department have any issue with the 12-foot exit onto KMD? It sounds like they do.
Again, we're not going to be putting in curbs.
Okay.
So,
They can run over
yeah,
that.
these are
Okay.
existing curb openings. We're not creating any new curb cuts.
Okay.
And we have a wider opening here. Actually, we may be widening this one, the entrance, because it's 2 lanes coming in. They can turn in from the east or westbound on KMD. But again, they're only going to be allowed to exit westbound on KMD.
Is it possible to widen that exit?
Yeah, we'd take out a small section of curb.
Yeah. I don't know, that was like one of the conditions. Does that mean that it would have to be done, Ann?
That's what the
Yeah.
fire department is requiring?
So you're
Right.
gonna have to widen it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I did not, well, that's wider than 20 feet because a parking stall is 18 feet. From here to here is 18. So that looks like it's probably
That
close
one.
to 24 or 28 feet.
Yeah, I think they mean the exit
This,
only,
yeah, this exit. Yeah, we could widen that out because we've got this area right here
Yeah,
that we're not using for, there's just going to be a grassed area, but we could widen that out.
other questions for Jeff? Hillary? Oh, sorry, April?
I was wondering if you knew what trees you were going to be using, the evergreens.
The ordinance is gloriously vague on that. What do you want?
I would like to avoid white pine.
No, okay, no white pine. We can make that happen.
Cool.
So I just had a question. So removing the water, having your tenants essentially take water, do I understand correctly? So any dishes that they create, anything that they cook with, they're going to have to wash off-site? Is that right?
Most of these food trucks, I believe, have a holding tank, like a camper would.
Okay.
So they would be washing and the wash
In their
water
food truck,
would,
okay.
yeah, would be held in a holding tank that they would then dump off-site at, you can go down to the wastewater treatment plant. They have a camper dump station there. This is essentially what they'd be doing here.
That's what I'm wondering about. So it's incumbent on them to dispose of their water properly.
And this is the same situation if they were down at Header Falls or, at any site.
Okay.
They have to
That's
deal
my
with that.
question, yeah.
This
Okay.
is not
It's not
atypical.
unusual. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's great, thanks.
Are you putting in tables at all, Jeff? Because I didn't see anything on the site
No.
plan. Okay.
No, we really don't have much space for tables.
Yeah.
So,
With the parking lot, if it's not going to be paved, how are you going to delineate between like these striped areas where people aren't supposed to?
yeah, I think we can put up pylons and ropes,
Okay.
because if in the winter, they'd want to be able to plow this anyway, if it's going to be operational in the winter. But as far as the spacing between cars, I don't know how we would do that. It'll just be a kind of an open parking space. But other areas like in here, I would want to put a rope in so people don't shortcut through there.
Yeah.
So the end aisles could easily be monitored with ropes, as could something going across here
Right.
that would, separate the pedestrians from the traffic. That's the key thing I want to make sure is.
Right there, yeah. And even like on the other side where, we have entrance, exit, but also like the end of the parking stalls, right?
Right, in here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't want people going through there. We want them to go down toward KMD
yeah.
and then go around.
So I guess that's kind of just my question, like how will we maintain order if we can't paint lines and?
Well, depends on how good the food is. But yes, that is an issue. If, I think at some point, if this becomes very successful, they may want to consider paving, but just that's an awful lot of money right up front.
Oh, yeah, I understand for sure.
So
I'm
I
just
don't-
Trying to
Trying to get this off the ground first.
find a way to make sure that it's not pure chaos.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jeff? Members of the public? Yeah, sure, sir. Come right up to, if you don't mind coming up to the mic so that everybody can hear you.
Yes, I'm Alden Gordon. I live right straight across the road from that. And
On Merrifield? sir?
Yes,
Okay.
I didn't catch your name for the.
Alden Gordon.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I got a questions on, you're gonna think it's odd, but we had trouble with skunks and rats and stuff. Who's gonna be responsible for this? Because I caught 5 skunks last year. And the rats had, on 97 Merrifield, they didn't take care of the rubbish, had rats big as cats coming out. And I'm just wondering who's gonna be carrying that? And about lights, are they gonna be on all night? Any lights or anything that gonna be lit up all night long?
Yeah, so I think Jeff can
And
probably.
the smoke, right now across Kennedy Drive, they're smoking. And is there gonna be a lot of smoke and stuff coming from these places
Yeah.
into our houses like it is off and on now when the wind is right? Is there anything that can be to take care of them 3, 4 things? Because it's hard to believe of being right in town, all skunks, but we got 5, so. And I'm a country boy, so I know what a skunk is. And stuff, and I lived there since '99, so. I'm just wondering who's gonna be responsible for the animals and the rats and the mice if they start dumping stuff out. And somebody said they're gonna have a playground there too.
I don't think the playground is on the plans anymore.
Yeah, I don't mind the little playground for the kids they got. I mean, that's no gig, but the rats and the mice and the skunks and all the smoke and any lights gonna be bright all night.
Yeah,
That's the only questions I have.
all right. I think Jeff can answer some of those for you.
I hope I can. So the easy one is the lights. The operational hours close at 8 o'clock at night. And so that's in the ordinance that you can't have anything past 8 o'clock. So even when the trucks go in and clean up, I would imagine most will be shut down by 8:30 or 9. You know, it's gonna take a little while to clean up. As far as skunks and rats and other vermin, all the garbage here is going to be stored or put in a dumpster, and that will be sealed shut.
Sounds good, but.
Well,
Oh, the dumpster also has to be fenced, correct?
right,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, we're having a fence around the dumpsters, but again, the biggest deterrent is just not having spare French fries on the ground.
Right.
So that, and as far as smoke, the odors you're going to smell will be dependent on what trucks are there. This is going to be sort of a revolving door of different food trucks coming in, I believe. And so, you may smell smoked meats one time, they may smell, a variety of other things. But a lot of the folks that are coming here to sell may also prepare their food off-site and bring it on-site. That's one reason we had the parking lot out back, is to give them an opportunity to work elsewhere.
Say there's gonna be a little smoke, but when you live like straight across the road, are we gonna have that concentrate coming into the house? Or is there gonna be a way that you can maintain it with conditions and stuff? I mean, right now, we're getting the smoke from that smoker off and on, and it sometimes get powerful. Now I'm gonna have the trucks went in from here to the wall of my house.
I know all of these trucks have, if they have fried foods or certain food categories, have to have a power vent, a hood, to suck this up.
Right. That's
So that's going to put it up as high as they can. We've also got a 6-foot stockade fence that's going to be separating this from you. From an upstairs window, that's not going to do much good.
right.
But
Be down
that's,
all either, that's.
yeah. It's just, think of it,
I'm
yeah.
80 years old, and I don't want to sit there and just smell smoke all day and sit on my lawns.
Yeah. I don't know if that we would be able to regulate it based on the direction of the wind. That would be hard to do.
Because the wind, that's the way the wind comes, down.
Yep. But you,
Her house, my house,
Yeah.
and the neighbor's house.
yeah, I don't know how you would,
That's just a question, I mean.
yeah.
Do you want me to come down and build a bonfire and put green wood on it right next door to you all day?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I work over here right next to the Proper Pig, and Wednesday afternoons is when they smoke. And if we have our windows open, we get to smell,
Yeah.
which,
And you got
you know.
one place, you're talking 8, 10.
yeah. So I don't know how we could regulate the odors.
That's gonna be the problem, and keeping around the dumpsters clean for the rats and stuff. Is somebody gonna go out there and pick up, clean up and stuff? Hey, I mean, I've been around this stuff for years.
Right. At the end of the night, do you envision Popo going out and, picking up trash and stuff like that, just as before you settle down for the evening or close for the evening? Is that something that is in the contract, that they have to clean up after themselves and have no debris, no food left on the ground? I think that's, if, we can,
The plan is good, and the trees and stuff is proper, what we talked about when we let them change it years ago, because I was here when we changed that to commercial and all this. And all that looks good, but just the smoke and all this. Right now, we have a problem now with the smoke coming from the cooking the meat across the road. So.
So I do have a question. It is a good question. All of the questions are good questions. A question about, so people can transport the food from the food trucks to their cars. They're not going to be eating on site, so there's less of a chance of food spilling onto the ground. But there could, of course, be food that spills onto the ground. Who is responsible for cleaning up the site?
I think that's what I was just alluding to.
Right.
To Popo.
I know you alluded to it. I just want to get a sort of confirmation. So
Yeah.
you'll be doing that daily? Okay. Okay, so daily you'd be walking around on the site at the end of the day to make sure that that gets cleaned up, okay? And then obviously tenants are responsible for dumping their own things into the dumpster. Okay. Yeah.
Anybody been around kids, and we got 5 grandkids and 4 or 5 great-grandkids, they're gonna throw the food on the ground.
Well, they're not going to eat there. That's what I was saying. No, they're getting food and they're taking it with them, but that's what, right.
If you've got a cardboard box, the kids walking out there, they're gonna get into it.
Right, that's why I was asking who's responsible for cleaning it up. So, because each person who has a food truck has their own truck that they're responsible for, but then there is going to be someone responsible for cleaning up the whole site every day. And we want to make sure that that happens. Yeah. I do think it's a legitimate question in terms of the smells. But as you say, we can't do anything about which way the wind blows and how it goes. And those trucks are going to change, I think is what your comment
Yes,
was.
that's true.
So none of them are going to be fixed permanently. So we can't necessarily say there could be a smoker, but there could not be a smoker in terms of what kind of food they have. And I think what Mr. Allen was saying is that some people will prepare food off-site and just bring it, and some people will prepare food on-site. So those aren't questions, it sounds like, that you're able to answer entirely, which is fine.
Right.
It's just you're doing the best that you
There's
can.
no answer
Right.
that I-
No, yeah, I appreciate
They
it.
have, I've been around them, they have trying to think of filters when they're cooking and over the stove and everything, filter to catch that smoke a lot of, most of it before they go out. Are you gonna demand they have them on the trucks? Are you just gonna let it go out through the chimney? Or you like your hood and ranges at home and stuff,
Right.
you got filters in them?
Right, I think those are regulations that we can't regulate, but
Right.
that are regulated by the food.
All the trucks is the fire department's requiring they meet certain NFPA
Right.
codes. I believe that has to do with fire and having, the fire department regulations, the NFPA regulations will govern what sort of exhaust fan that they have there. So, if a truck, for example, is not frying anything, they don't need an expensive hood and smoke evacuation system. If they are frying, then they may need that.
I've
But
been around the trucks before.
yeah. So they
I work
yeah,
in the
and
state
as
before.
Right, but if they make ice cream, they don't fry anything, for example. So if it's an ice cream truck, they don't have an exhaust.
I've worked for the
Right.
state for 40 years, been around it, and I know some of them just let it, don't even have a hood filter, they just let it go out the top.
Right.
I'm just saying, when they move into it,
I see.
can you make them before they can start cooking, have a filter system in it that gets the smoke before you can
Well,
let them move in to do it?
all the trucks working here have to get a license from the city.
That don't mean nothing either.
But it's not, I guess there's nothing else we can do other than assume or require that they meet all city standards.
Well,
What I'm saying is, you're gonna
All right.
regulate it. Can you let
instead of
them
the going back and forth, I just have a question. So, Ann, can we just say that they are not allowed to smoke meat on the premises? Like,
I think that would be up to Popo.
I mean, we could put other conditions, but,
All it is, you can
What if they're
make
frying
sure
burgers?
she gets-
huh?
What if they're frying burgers?
Well, that's not smoking meat. Like, I understand what he's talking about. He's talking about a long-term smoker that, people
No,
smoke meat
hamburgers
for.
and all that, when they smoke them or cook them and stuff, you cooked on grills before,
Yeah,
you get all that smoke.
well, yeah, but then they would have to have the hood system, but
That's why I said.
I think the concern is
Hood
the,
on it.
okay, sir, I'm trying to help you, all right? But you have to stop interrupting me. So I think the concern, right, is the establishment across the street that smokes meat all day long, right? And so that's like, those don't have the same hood system because they're an outdoor smoker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's where the concern is coming from, but maybe Popo can answer a little bit better.
Yeah, the thing is, we only have 6 food trucks, and I hope I can make like a global food truck park. So we won't have a lot of smoked meat or, I really want, like me, I will do the dumpling truck. I only boil. So I only use water, no fryers. And I hope I can have an ice cream truck, and I hope so I can pick that, I won't pick a lot of smoked meat food truck and stay there. That's not my goal.
I just thought maybe you just tell them, well, when you come in.
Yeah, so you won't smell that a lot of kind of smoke. You won't, trust me, okay? Because I will pick the food trucks. That's my choices. That's my food truck park, okay?
Because all they have to do with it is have a little filter up over the cooking thing to catch some of it. That's no big gig like you do at your house. And just check and make sure they got the hood and the
Yeah.
filter on it, that's all.
Yeah, no problem. I will check everything, check the permit, check license, everything.
So-
Yeah, this will be on my contract with them, the lease contract.
And
Yeah.
skunks, I tell you what, you will have skunks.
I don't want to break the law, so trust me.
Well, and I think the question about the animals is something that with any business that has food that might have animals, then becomes something that is what code enforcement, right? And that's something that you wouldn't want. So certainly if there are animals already and there isn't a food business there, I don't.
people dumping,
Yeah.
people that used to have houses.
Okay.
Right. But
All
that's
right.
not something for us to take care of in terms of this, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
So, Ann, is there something in the ordinance about like vermin? And like,
Not in the zoning ordinance, I don't know.
You might answer.
your mic, Ann.
Not in the zoning ordinance. There might be
Yes.
in the
What have been trying?
nuisance ordinance somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know. We have an animal control officer.
Yeah,
They don't take care of
when they had the
rats.
skunks, when neighbors didn't take care of the rubbish, called them 2-3 times, they never come down. The only way I got rid of the skunks is catch them myself.
Yeah, I mean, she has to have a dumpster that's required by the ordinance, and it has to be fenced, and it's gonna have to be, maintained. It's all required in the ordinance. I mean, beyond that, I don't know.
I'm not interested in imposing any other, anything that we wouldn't impose in any other business that wants to have, like a food business, like we would have a dumpster, just like we would any other business. Like, there's no problem yet, so we should assume that there wouldn't be a problem. And if there's a problem, then that gets addressed when the problem arises, right?
Jeff, is there any lighting on site? On the site? I don't think so, right? Beyond car lighting?
There are, I think, is there a light out front here, Popo?
The food trucks should have the light,
Right, but like you don't have any like lighting
Light
on
poles,
the, yeah, okay.
because we won't open at night.
Right, you're not gonna be open at night.
What about in the winter? It's 4 o'clock and it's dark.
To be honest, I hope around winter, we can close around like 4 or 5. I don't wanna, it's too cold.
It is cold,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
this,
too-
then you would need lights. I mean, at 4, it's dark.
Yeah.
If they close at 4, there's gonna be traffic in and out, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, are you planning on putting any kind of pole lights or anything anywhere there to light up the parking lot for the employees, or?
Yeah, if we need it, we will.
Would they have to come back to the planning board for that though, Ann? If it's not on the site plan?
No, if they're just putting a light on the side of the building, or on the garage, for example, or the little service building.
Right, but if they put up pole lighting,
Oh,
like
pole
parking lot lighting,
Yeah, probably pole
Yeah.
lighting, you'd have to come back, but putting a building light on, it's...
yeah, like a
you know,
motion light on the,
Yeah.
garage or something.
that... But again, as she says, there's not going to be too much activity here after dark,
Right.
because...
The location of the dumpster, is that set in stone? Because that's closer to the neighbors, the people across the street, the people on the right.
Waterville's kind of funky about it has to be at least 20 feet from any building. So we don't want it, we couldn't put it next to the garage that's there.
Right.
That was the initial thought, because that would be, as far away from everybody as possible. But there's a fire issue that they had with dumpster fires. And so it has to be at least 20 feet from a building. This corner of the back parking lot also allows a dump truck, or a garbage truck, to pull in straight to it. And
They come at 4 in the morning.
Right,
At the doctor's
yeah.
office, it's early, they wake me up every single day,
Yeah.
every time they come.
Yeah.
so this is as easy as they can to get into it, dump it, and then get back out. That's why it's there as opposed to
Can't
some
go on the other
others.
side of the hedges, so that he can still back up on that, that's all lawn, I mean, that's all lawn.
No, we can't, the hedges are there for your protection. So there's a garage here,
On the other side, on that, right there,
in here?
yeah,
No,
no.
no, because if you put it over here, you would lose some parking spaces, and we'd have to change we could change where the trees are, but again, you wouldn't have a complete buffer around to protect you from the headlights and stuff. So, yeah, that's where it has to be. I'm sorry.
He's gonna wake him up.
Okay, but to be clear, they won't be allowed to put any pole lighting in without coming back to the planning board?
They come about 4 o'clock in the morning to pick up the garbage.
Right,
Right.
And the light become like straight into the bedrooms
yeah.
from the headlights and stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes they come at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, they're always
Yeah,
like in the
yeah.
middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then they had the backup horns, beep, beep, beep.
Yep.
Yeah, it continues, yeah, and then they make the big boom when they drop the new dumpster or take the dumpster. It's not a good sleep situation. No.
It is pretty bad. I mean, it's nothing that they can control though, like beyond that, that's not. And I don't know where else you would be able to put that dumpster because of the garage.
Comes right off Kennedy Memorial Drive and straight back. It's a straight shot coming in here, picks up the load.
No way coming in on Carver?
We're not allowed to do
They're
that.
not allowed to enter
Not
off
even your
Carver.
garbage truck?
Nope,
They can't have any entrances off Carver.
nothing
They
off
can
Carver,
only
nothing
have it
off
off
Merrithew.
of Kennedy Memorial Drive. That's what it says in the ordinance.
So either way, we're gonna get the beeping 4 o'clock in the morning and headlights in the house.
Well, there will be the stockade fence there.
Yep. Yeah, there's a stockade
So-
fence 6 feet high.
That should stop a lot of the headlights.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Anne. So a lot of our ordinances mention that there should not be noxious fumes or odors. Our commercial A designation, which this property is commercial A, mentions it, but not, it's like in terms of veterinary clinics, right, which is totally different smell. Do we have a good definition of odor? I know marijuana processing facilities now have their own, you know, like, it can't be detectable at so many feet or whatever. I was just wondering if there's something similar for food establishments. I wouldn't imagine so. Okay.
And is it a noxious odor?
Well, it doesn't say noxious. This says nuisance. It says, shall be no nuisance created by the emission of noise, vibration, electronic radiation, fumes, dust, or odor, which is very vague.
The odor comes from a dumpster.
Well, right, and I don't think that we can, I mean, it's commercial, yeah. Yeah, it's hard, because it's like, is it yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it was just a question for Anne, and I don't think we define those things as.
I mean, almost anything that goes in a commercial zone is going to have a dumpster.
Right.
So,
Almost has to.
yeah.
Food. This is dumping food that rots and gets maggots and.
I'm assuming they will dump that dumpster every few days,
It would have to
2 or
be.
3 days,
At least
just to
weekly.
cut down on
Yeah.
the odor and,
You're assuming, is that in the contract? I mean, is that something we can be assured that they're gonna dump that dumpster every 2 days?
no.
No.
A lot of dumpsters, they round it right up full. Yeah. And stuff.
That might be something you'd have, if there becomes a problem, then I think that's something that code enforcement would look at being able to enforce.
Yeah, I think you would have to call code enforcement,
Okay.
for sure.
Now we'll call the wall and talk to it.
We can talk to code enforcement.
Yeah, I think that would be, at that point, right? I'm just looking at,
I mean, it's a
The
nice plan,
ordinances.
and I like it, but there's just a few little things that stand out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would just say, we've only been here twice. Popo's been here twice. My sense is that Popo wants to be a good neighbor. My very strong suggestion is that if we move forward with this, that if animals become a problem, if odors become a problem, that the first step would be to approach the owner to say, we're seeing increased problems with animals. We're seeing increased problems with smells. Could you please take care of this before even approaching code enforcement? To say summer months, smells could be worse, colder months, they may not be. And that you be a good neighbor and say, okay, we've got to get it dumped every 2 days versus every 4 in the colder months. I mean, that could just, but that's part of being a good neighbor. And that makes a lot of sense, I think.
I know it's really hard to do some commercial things, especially the food. I know the smells, I totally understand that, but I will take care of all the things because I'm the owner. Yeah, and I have to do that. I don't want to waste everywhere. I hate that, and I don't want the dumpster full of trash and nobody take care of that. No, that won't happen. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Does the board want to move to findings and facts? Okay, I guess I hear no opposition. All right, Jeff, we'll go through the findings and facts. So number 1, do you have it, Jeff, a copy of it?
I do not.
Do you need a copy? Sorry. The development will not result in undue water or air pollution on or off the site.
True.
Okay, and that means, so we're not going to do the stormwater thing? Is that part of that?
The city engineer looked at that today and asked where this was going. There's a catch basin down on the southeast corner, right by the entrance here.
Okay,
I'm sorry, it's down here. So the water will run off essentially the way it is now. This is previously developed land, so it's has been somewhat impervious. It's grass now, but it's it's previously gone there, and I don't believe there are any problems.
Okay.
It's a good slope across there, so it's
okay,
going to go.
Which way does this slope, Jeff?
It slopes
Down.
to the right here.
yeah.
To the right, okay.
Yeah, going down KMD is, as you go inbound, it goes downhill in this area.
And you don't envision it changing if you like paved or anything, would you, would it?
There might be a little bit more runoff if you paved, because the gravel is, will handle small
Yeah.
storms. And again, you won't have much traffic here, people going to food courts if it's rainy, nasty weather. But I don't imagine that there would be any problem, simply because it's previously developed.
Okay. Sufficient water available for the reasonable foreseeable needs of the development?
True.
I didn't ask, speaking of water, sorry, I am being the worst. Are there bathrooms? Did we?
There is
where did we land
an
on the
employee bathroom in this little shed out front
Okay.
here.
Jeff, is there a fire hydrant anywhere near this site?
There is, I don't know where it is. I believe it's across the road. No, the water's on, yeah. It was not a concern that the fire department had,
Yeah,
so. But that's a good question. I should know that, Tom.
yeah,
One up on Carver, right up on the corner, I believe.
Okay,
okay,
yeah, thank you.
Probably, it's probably about 400 feet,
okay.
I believe. Don't quote me on that. I've lived there for 20-some years.
There must be one on KMD as well, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think there's one
Yeah.
nearby, because, yeah.
All right, number 3, will not cause unreasonable soil erosion.
True.
Number 4, will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion.
True.
Okay. Number 5, development will provide adequate solid waste disposal.
With the dumpster, yes, true.
Okay. And the toilet, I
Yeah,
assume. The development will not cause unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
true.
Development will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area or historic sites, rare or irreplaceable areas. Okay.
True.
The development is in conformance with zoning.
True.
The developer has adequate financial to technical capacity to meet the above stated standards.
True.
Okay, so we have all of the conditions. One of them on there is that the exit needs to be 20 feet. So you might want to just amend that or make sure. What else did he have on here? The food, yearly inspection of food trucks. It does say if food truck cooking produces grease-laden vapors, the truck shall have a hood system with fire suppression system. So. Yeah. The 10 feet thing, so. It does say mobile or temporary cooking operations shall be separated from buildings or structures, combustible materials, vehicles, and other cooking operations by a minimum of 10 feet. So it does say vehicles, so those, I mean.
Yeah, each of these pads are 10 by 20. And
I
it's-
understand, but
yeah.
it says, the temporary cooking operations, and one of the things it lists is vehicles. So if we have parking spaces within 10 feet of the mobile food truck, is that a concern?
I guess to meet that standard, we would need to lose these 4 parking spaces here. If that is a concern of the board, we would,
A concern of the fire department, not the board. Like, I didn't come up with this one.
yeah.
So,
That's something I could speak with Deputy Chief Frost and see if that's going to be a problem.
I think maybe clarifying that, I don't know,
Yeah.
Ann, what are your?
And it may be possible that those 2 trucks on the end could be the ice cream trucks that would not have cooking.
But Jeff, they're not gonna be permanent trucks, right? So we
Right.
don't ever, we can't always guarantee that it's gonna be an ice cream truck, just like I can't always guarantee that it's gonna be a truck that's smoking meat, just, so, like, speaking in the hypotheticals is like not necessarily productive. And we just need to make sure that it's done correctly and safely and up to the fire department standards. So, I mean, yeah, hypothetically, one could be a ice cream truck at one point, but we can't, that's not a guarantee, so.
They could do 2 parallel parking spaces there.
Could do a parallel parking
Yeah.
space. You also
Yeah.
have to widen the street there too, so it might just be easier to eliminate some of those. And
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Or the exit there.
making 2 parallel spaces would work, and those are easier to pull in and out of.
Okay,
So we could agree to change those to 2 parallels.
okay. They don't have to come back, right, Ann?
No,
With a
not-
new drawing, okay,
You make that.
okay. And then the other thing is just the dumping of the grease. So we're agreeing that there won't be any
Right, and
disposal of wastewater.
that'll be regulated by the lease contract.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any additional things to add?
I have one thing to add, but as a direct comment to Mr. Gordon, was that your name? Yes, thank you. I was just looking at inland fisheries and wildlife, and, I don't know if our code enforcement doesn't. Anne seemed to think maybe that they don't do much for wildlife, like skunks. But it looks like an agent can come out to your house to help figure out a solution if they become nuisance animals, so that's a resource for you.
Yeah, 'cause I got 5 scamps now, 'cause
Yeah,
the
so,
next door that used to live there didn't take care of the food.
yeah, so you have that, that's all I wanted to add, was that's an extra resource.
I called enforcement officer 2, 3, 4 times, yeah. He never come here.
Did you say the name of the agency was Wildlife?
Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and it's called an Animal Damage Control Cooperator, ADC agent.
It's nice to catch a skunk. I take them up one time by the river and let them go to college.
I think the question that I had at the beginning was, did we want to allow them the option to use generators if there were a power outage? There might be something really nice for the community if we have a power outage, that there's some place in town where you could still go and get food. I'm thinking about last December when none of us had power and we all wanted to get food, how nice it might be if we allow them to use generators.
96, when I lost all the power, I didn't have power for this 6, 8 weeks.
We might be really happy if we let them use generators in circumstances like that.
Use it just when they didn't have power and
Yeah.
doing daylight hours.
Yeah. Well, so generally, they'll be using electricity, and the way it was set up, that you said no generators, but I would like to propose a provision that allows them to use it if there were a power outage.
Not all.
Can we?
Technically, right now, it's not in the findings and facts at all about generators. So are you making a motion to prohibit generators except within a power outage
That's what I was looking
to
at.
add to the conditions?
Is the power outage condition that you're proposing a power outage on that site or a power outage anywhere in town? What is the
A power outage on that site.
on that site?
Yeah.
Take like the Hyundai generators, they don't make too much noise, so
Well,
when you do the day.
I'm not going to tell them what kind to use, but I am going to say if there was a power outage. That's the discussion that I remember us having last time. That wasn't part of the minutes, and you said at the beginning that we could add that if we wanted to.
You can add whatever you want.
Okay. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I
Is
kind of,
it something that we can put on the findings and facts, or how does that even work? It has to go on the findings. Okay. Okay.
But I doubt that the code enforcement office is going to come and tell them not to use the generator.
During a power-
On a temporary basis.
Yeah.
And propose allowing it on a temporary basis. So you may be getting into detail that you don't have to
Yeah.
for the time.
Yeah, maybe that's more operational. You could put that in your lease agreement too, or something like that.
it's just if we just filled out something that says they're not allowed to use it, I don't know.
But they have
Okay,
electrical
where
hookups.
where
I
does
don't
it
think
say
that-
they're not allowed to use
Filled
it?
out anything that says they're not allowed to use.
Oh, we haven't. Okay, it was just in the minutes, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't put that on there.
Right, so anything that's in the minutes is just a discussion. Whatever you want to make a condition of approval has to be on the findings of fact.
So we don't have to disallow or allow it. You're saying they can
Right.
use it.
Right.
Okay. Fine. Sounds like you can use it.
Any other things? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the findings and facts as presented.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? All right. Good luck, Popo. We're excited. All right.
Thank you.
Are you on the next part too, Jeff?
I am.
Okay. D&M Properties is requesting final plan review for construction of 5 apartments in the existing single-family home at 76 Pleasant Street.
So this is, as you mentioned, 76 Pleasant Street. It's an existing home, and as we mentioned last meeting, the applicant is proposing to add or convert it to 5 single-bedroom apartments. The outstanding issues we had last time were some exterior lighting, and we have added a light on the front of the existing garage. There's also some question about buffering and how would we make sure the trees that are there will stay there. And so we've added notes, trees to remain. The only trees that will be cut down is one right here where we'll be creating additional parking spaces. There are some existing lights on the porch here and on this back porch here. So that in combination with the single light that we're adding here will provide security for the parking lot. And again, these are all kind of shielded underneath the overhangs. The one out here will be also downcast only, so it won't be shining in the neighbors' windows.
So you're adding 5 parking spots?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
There's 6. There's an existing 3 over here, and there are a couple spaces in the garage. We did take the dumpster off because that was a question. We had a dumpster here shown at one time next to the garage. Again, didn't meet that 25-foot setback or 20-foot setback. So we've taken the dumpster away, and we'll just have garbage be dealt with by a commercial hauler that will pick up garbage cans that will be stored inside the garage.
Okay. So not the city.
Right, it'll be a commercial waste hauler.
Okay. I'm just gonna look at the ordinance about that, but, all right. 5 apartments, did I see how large are these apartments?
They're, I'm not sure if they're a single bedroom.
Okay,
And back at the office, I have the floor plans because Ben Murray from our office did the structural analysis for those.
okay.
So they're smaller apartments. It's going to be typical workforce housing.
Any other questions? Is this residential D?
D in the front and B in the rear.
All of the development is in the residential D zone.
Jeff, do you have any idea what the condition of the sanitary sewer is? I know that was a...
No, there was a question about that the KSDD, or the Waterville Sanitary District, proposed. And we are going to get that investigated, have somebody go in and camera it. John Jansen sent me a list of people who could do that. I have not had an opportunity to contact them and arrange that, but that will be done prior to occupancy. We've got some pretty extensive renovations going on inside, so it makes sense to look at that now before it becomes occupied. But yes, that is something that is on the docket to be done.
Are D&M Properties, is that a local firm, or where are they based out of?
It's owned by William Dangler,
Oh, okay.
and he's
He
set up
owns the adjacent property?
I believe so, yes.
There's one property in between.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah. I think, and who owned this building originally? Was it Levine's?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How big is this house?
It's 3 floors.
Really?
And we were going to use the 3rd floor, but there's no adequate egress from up there. So we're just using the first 2 floors.
Okay.
And there's 2 apartments on each floor and one apartment in the basement with the other utility room and laundry room.
Okay. Yeah, because they
It's
do
in the
have that
basement.
basement access. All right. This one I don't have the findings of facts for, Ann, sorry. Tom has it.
Sorry, can I ask, this isn't the building right next to the church? This is
No.
the one
The next
on the
one.
other side of it? Yep.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
next
because it
one.
has like a long driveway.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
I know
There's
exactly.
Sacred Heart, and then the rectory that was part of Sacred Heart, and then this is the next property going north on Pleasant.
Yep.
Did you ask about the sanitary system?
I did, there's
Oh,
a
okay.
camera.
All right. Any other questions? Any questions from members of the public? All right, Jeff, do you have this one?
Nope.
And us.
Yes. So I didn't make copies for nothing.
There, thank you.
Okay. Number 1, development will not result in undue water or air pollution on or off-site.
True.
Number 2, sufficient water available for the reasonable foreseeable needs of the development.
True.
Number 3, will not cause unreasonable soil erosion.
True.
Number 4, will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion.
True.
Will provide adequate solid waste disposal.
True.
Development will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
True.
Development will not have an undue adverse effect on scenic or natural beauty of the area.
True.
Development is in conformance with zoning.
True.
Developer has adequate financial and technical capacity.
True.
Okay, so then the conditions from the fire department are, you have to do the new apartment occupancy rules for new apartments, all of that stuff, and then the sanitary checking, the sanitary service and upgrading if necessary. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the findings and facts.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Number 7, BD Solar Homes Farm LLC is requesting informal pre-application review for a 1.99 megawatt solar farm to be constructed on County Road.
Good evening.
Hello.
Sean Thies with Haley Ward Engineers representing the, well, technically, I guess we're not an applicant yet. This is a pre-application meeting.
Did you need to give Jeff his plan? Do we have to give him his plans?
Pick them up tomorrow.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry,
No,
could you
that's
start
fine.
over again?
Sure.
please?
Sean Thies with Haley Ward Engineers, representing the applicant, BD Solar Homes Farm LLC. The project is a well, I guess we're here for a pre-application meeting for a 1.99 megawatt solar project on County Road. This lot, around 4 years ago, was here for, a portion of the lot was changed, zone change to allow solar. It's in the rural residential zone, the majority of the lot, but there's around 19 acres that was rezoned for solar. So County Road is here. This is Messalonsky Stream. And then Streamview Drive is up here. So this is the parcel here, and then the proposed solar. So there was around 19 acres here that was rezoned. The footprint of the solar itself is only around 10 acres. And per the zone change, we've got a proposed buffer with 8-foot fence, proposed 8-foot tall plantings completely around the solar. And then the zone change also called for some additional plantings here to address concerns with this abutter for screening of the property. So there's an access drive here off of County Road that comes in, equipment pad. What you see here going across are the rows of the solar panels, a turnaround here, and then the exit. There'll be poles out here by the road where the underground power comes up on the poles and then overhead to tie into the power on County Road. There's no lighting, no signage, minimal noise from the equipment pad area. I'm not sure if the planning board has reviewed, I don't know if there's other solar projects in Waterville, so you're familiar with solar?
Lots of them.
So, okay. It's the first one that we've done in Waterville, so I've done many of them, so I'm not sure how much detail I need to go into about solar in general to answer any questions you might have. But
So the access is going to come in off of County Road?
that's correct.
Okay. Is that going to be a locked gate, or?
There will be a gate at the fence.
Okay.
But nothing up to the fence line unless it's required. It's not that far
Okay.
off of the road. We normally don't put a gate unless it's a fairly long road that we don't want people to go up in there.
Yeah.
Are there any Phase 2 expansion plans, or is this all you're planning for? This?
Yeah, this is it for now.
We did just like revise our solar ordinances, so like lifting up a fence and. so that
Like a
animals-
6-inch gap on
Yeah,
the
so
bottom.
that animals can go all the way through and all of that. So the ordinances have been like amended a little bit since we approved this ordinance. But just so you're aware.
Okay. Is there I remember reading that an 8-foot fence was required. I don't remember if it specified if it had to be chain link or if the city has a preference of, I know lots of times we use wildlife fencing now that's larger gaps as well as a 6-inch gap, but then bigger openings in the fence if there's a preference either way.
Yeah, I don't think it does preference, does it? in chain
I'm
link
not
fence?
sure about the state electrical code. I thought that was part of the electrical code.
No,
but-
the code just, I believe it requires, well, they can't have openings large enough for somebody to fit through, and it has to be a minimum of 7 feet tall. But in this case, it probably doesn't matter because it's behind all that planting anyway, so it's not going to be seen by anybody. The wildlife fencing is generally, I would say, less visible because you're looking at essentially like 6x6
Yeah.
openings as opposed to a chain link, which is denser.
How is the wildlife fencing constructed? What's the construction material?
So it's still a wire
Okay.
mesh. It's generally on wooden posts instead of galvanized.
And there's
Posts.
physical open gaps in between the posts, 6-inch?
Yeah, generally the fence itself, it can either be consistent, like 6x6 openings throughout the whole thing, or there's some that are wider on bottom and tapers as you go up the fence. They're smaller at the top and wider at the bottom, again, to help allow passage. But if there's already a 6-inch gap, on the bottom, it may not
Our
matter.
ordinance does address that. I just don't remember exactly what it's.
Okay.
I can look it up for you.
Well,
but it's
we'll
on our
double check before
website.
we submit our application to see if it specifies what type of fencing.
Yeah, I think when we put something in the new ordinance about that, it was just a concern of like wildlife getting stuck
Yep.
in the fence, so.
That's generally a recommendation from IF&W now. Not,
Okay.
this project doesn't need to go to DEP for permits because it's small enough, other than a decommissioning permit, but most of the projects that we do have to consult with IF&W on, they put in their recommendation for wildlife fencing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have,
we did copy that from IF&W.
Okay.
I have an Ann question.
Okay.
You made me aware of the GIS with the city, the online interface, mapping interface. And I'm looking at a parcel that has the outline that you do. Is this mistaken? Because it's assigning the parcel to Fairfield.
The owner lives in Fairfield,
Yeah,
I
he
believe.
lives in Fairfield.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
In the GIS, I looked today, the GIS website doesn't show the area that's been changed, and it lists the whole parcel as rural residential, but the zoning map does show
Yeah.
that 19 acres that was,
Yeah, in this map shows that, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's just weird, because like in the assessment details, it says owner city Fairfield, which
Oh.
is like.
The city of the owners.
Yes,
Yeah.
apparently. Good to know. It was just anyway. It's clearly within the city limits, so it's very weird.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions? Okay, any questions from members of the public? All right. Ann?
Well, so when do you think you'd be ready to come back?
very soon.
Very soon. So we need to know when we'll have a quorum for the next meetings are August 13 and August 27, if we have a quorum. You said yes for the 13th, no for... 13th, yes for the 27th. 13, hang on one second. No for the 13th. Is that what you said, Matt? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, for the 27th.
Okay, so at this point, we only have 2 for the 13th, and no one is responding.
I should be available for both.
Both, thank you, okay. So we have to have,
I can do them both, but I mean, we should find out from Cassie and
okay,
David.
Sam. So we still don't have a quorum for either one of those meetings, but
Okay. When is the deadline to submit for either of those?
2 weeks before the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And the developer's required to notify abutters at least 14 days before the meeting by certified mail. And I can give you the definition of a butter. I can make a list for you if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the 13th, it would be the 30th, so it's like next Tuesday. The 27th, you'd have till the 13th, right?
Do you know when will you know if you're going to have a quorum or not? I don't want to rush to
So
get this in for
13th, You
the,
have 2 people, me and Tom.
On the 13th, we have Tom, Cassie, and Sam. We have 3 on the 13th and 2 on the 27th.
Okay.
and you need,
far.
how many for a quorum?
We need 5.
5?
I'll ask
Okay.
Dave right now.
There are 2 members not here currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can make one but not the other, but I don't know which one. Sorry, it's really not helpful.
Well, we'll work to get it done as soon as we can, and before we submit, we'll just check or keep checking in with you as you
Okay,
might know.
thank you, Sean.
I'll ask Dave. Matt, you're available the 27th, not the 13th? Correct. Okay. All right,
Okay,
we should know by the end of this week.
Okay,
If we
that
will
would be
have a
great.
meeting on the 13th.
That would be great.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Which one? This one? Okay. Here. I don't think that one matters as much. So the last thing is the recommendations for zoning to allow apartments in commercial zones. Does anybody have anything that they wish to add? Other than that, I think we should wait to do this until we have like the actual board here to make a decision. But if anybody has any thoughts that they wish to add.
I'll just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like having, yeah, more people. Like I know Dave's on vacation out of town and that's why he couldn't be here. And he had said, I do have some stuff to bring up. So I'm happy to postpone voting on anything formally, but I know some people might not make it if we have a meeting on the 13th or whatever. So if there are any other thoughts, please feel free to, I don't want to stifle anybody's conversations or thoughts, and you can always, if you can't be here, submit thoughts to Ann and I in writing or Ann in writing and read them as well. But
I'd just kind of like to recap what I said last
Yeah.
meeting. That, Waterville's been talking about our housing shortage for 3 years now, and this is the first proposal that I've seen come forward that actually addresses the issue and might increase housing for the community. Up until now, the proposals have really been just increased regulations on landlords, and I don't think that helps increase housing.
Matt, was there any particular area in town where you think that the parking requirement should be listed?
we're not talking about the
Oh,
parking
we're not?
requirement anymore because that already went to council.
Okay.
Now we're
Okay.
just talking about the adding housing as an allowable use in certain areas where it's not.
Yeah, and not speaking in specifics of the areas, but just in general, this proposal seems to help accomplish what we're trying to with the housing shortage.
I guess I'll reiterate what I said last time then as well, which is, yes, we have a housing shortage, but I don't think it serves our most vulnerable populations well to be putting them in areas that may be bad decisions for their health and well-being. Putting people in industrial areas, especially near like the intermodal site, that's a non-starter. We don't need to put people who are already in vulnerable situations in situations where there are more vulnerabilities. I am also unconvinced that putting people in these areas is the only solution. It seems like, Waterville has other areas that can be developed. And I guess the last thing I'll say is I went to some of the areas that look like they could be candidates. Like we talked about the Shaw's Plaza. There's some places in South Waterville that are currently contract zoned commercial D, for example. I like the idea of being able to take it case by case because yes, there are perhaps some circumstances where residential situation could work out without, it causing problems for the residents. There's a neighborhood in the South End, which was another area that we had, neighborhood that we had, I think, talked about. If, I don't know if this is our purview or not, but if we go down there and we see, well, this area, the South End, used to have a lot of retail in it, does not now, it's going more toward residential, and we want to, rezone that strip back to residential, then, that's gonna get at some of our the need to grow kind of a residential zone in the city and encourage more housing there. Yep. Is that-
So you're okay, in favor of having it in like that south end strip that we were talking about?
Yeah, if we want to like look at particular neighborhoods and say like a whole, like this strip, it makes sense to
Yeah.
kind of kick it back to residential. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is kind of a blanket, like any commercial zone can now have apartments.
Yeah.
That's dead on arrival for me.
I'm wondering if a possibility could be like as a adaptive reuse, right? Because I think part of the issue we run into is how expensive it is to build new places, like to develop something new, right? Like that's a huge barrier. And we have areas in the city that used to be housing, like there, or, you know, in some of the, now we call it the contract C1 or whatever it's called.
CC1.
CC1, yeah. But that, like, those used to be homes that are then turned into businesses, right? And now people are trying to convert them back into more of a mixed use or a home. Like, it might be a starting point to use it as more of an adaptive reuse thing rather than like a blanket thing. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, because I understand those concerns. Yeah. I do also think that one of the challenges is when you say, like, we want to take it a case-by-case basis. I think from like a development standpoint, like as a developer, that puts a big risk, an additional risk on the developer, which also stifles housing development. You know what I mean? So like there could be areas that are rezoned industrial. I can think of like off of Armory Road, for example. Like there's that whole area was zoned industrial because at one point they hoped to make that an industrial park, right? Right, Ann? It's not necessarily industrial land, and it's not the airport. It just was zoned that way in hopes of creating an industrial business park, and most of that didn't get developed, truly. I mean, if you look like aerial-wise. So, it also is all abutting, like Drummond Ave. Like it's a whole swath of land between Drummond Ave and the, you know, where Eagle Rental is, that never got developed, essentially. I don't know that it would be an issue to put housing there, but.
There is a project under development right now in that area, which has not before you
Not come
yet.
forward yet,
but
yeah.
They've been working on it for a couple of years, and it feels like a couple of years now,
Yeah,
anyway.
but like having that in an industrial zone and then asking people to rezone is like an additional risk on a developer. I don't know, Matt is a realtor. He might be able to speak more to that, like the legality of like going under contract, and I don't know if it.
I mean, on a really big development, you're typically going to build in quite a bit of due diligence.
Yeah.
Come to us first for, approval typically before you close. But I think what you have to also realize is that it's in nobody's better interest than the developer to put something in an ideal location that's going to attract people. People are spending millions of their own dollars to build these developments. If it's next to a toxic waste land, people aren't going to move in, the developer's not going to rent or sell the units. So, I mean, I think that we also have to realize that people are going to be choosy about where they put this. We're not going to just see buildings pop up everywhere.
I have developers in my family, and the bottom line is money. And if there's a housing shortage and they find that it is cheap to build somewhere and it's allowed, then that's what is going to happen. Different people are different amounts of risk averse. I, for example, find that being next to the intermodal facility is no good. We know from lots of studies that it causes heart disease and respiratory problems. And yet, if we allowed industrial development, well, residential development in industrial areas, yeah, it's going to be cheap. I mean, you know, I don't think anybody is going to be super jazzed about being adjacent to the intermodal. But I bet you they're going to build there if we allow it. So, right, different people have different, right? In Chicago, there are plenty of neighborhoods that are by trains, for example. Like, these things happen, right? But we don't have to in Waterville. There are other options.
Well, I would also say that a lot of those other options, so like we're talking about like farmland that's on West River Road and stuff, poses its own really big challenges because of other issues like inadequate water, like clean water, you know? And so, like, we have a development that was approved there, and I don't know how much more of it will end up being developed because it's very, very expensive to build wells out there. And so, you know, we could, like, on paper, it might look really great to say, well, we can fill this field with housing. But until you, like, drill a well and test the water, we might not know what other things exist as well, right? So I don't know that there are a lot of areas in Waterville left for development, truly, if we're talking about increasing housing supply. But
I don't know how it works, getting water and sewer out to places. I know there was some talk of, or maybe something already established all the way down here by the Trafton exit. It seems like, you know, they put in the exit, they wanted to have some sort of development down there.
well, that's all industrial.
Well, it's contract zone CD. And if I understand the history correctly, it's been sitting for quite some time. And, I mean, it seems that they could come back in to ask for a rezone down there.
I guess I'm confused because I don't know what the difference it would be from that area as opposed to like off of Armory Road, for example. Or what is the name of that road that like UPS is on? Industrial Way. Like, I don't know what the difference would be between those two places. And other than one has city water and this doesn't. And I've been told that it's going to be city water going out to Webb Road and Trafton Road isn't happening. So.
Yeah,
So I
well,
have-
and-
go ahead.
so- well, I was just going to say, I mean, if you're looking at like a housing development, you're going to see wells and septics, but if you're looking for denser housing options like apartments, condos, which is, you know, a lot of the talk of what we need, you do need water and sewer for that. You can't service it from wells and septic. So I think that's the difference, is what type of housing are we looking to create too?
I mean, in that industrial area, I mean, and that's why I would like to know, why I would like to speak with people individually about the parcels, is to know what the land use history is, what was there, what may have been dumped there. You know, I think that we had somebody, was it on Drummond, who was complaining about the UPS factory, that they could hear the trucks backing up, like continuously, all the time. And I just, you know, there's reasons why we keep these things separate from residential areas. So I would like the flexibility and the control to have people come in. Is it not, and this is me not knowing how this works, so if you are interested in a development, Matt mentioned due diligence, how does one find out if something can be rezoned? I mean,
So typically, if you were looking for a parcel of land to see if you could, I don't know, whatever, put a 5-lot subdivision or something like that, you'd have maybe 120 days due diligence to do, make sure that the soil, get your soil tests done, water tests, all that, come to the planning board, for preliminary application, kind of test the waters,
Like
maybe come for
before
final
closing.
approval. Yeah, exactly, before you buy. It's very rare for somebody to buy the parcel and then go down that road.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really think with something like this, you're going to see much more repurposing and redevelopment within the commercial zones. I don't necessarily know that it would spur a lot of, I mean, maybe some new construction, but I don't really think it
Yeah.
would be a
So I think
lot.
like Counselor Finch's idea here, the way that I understood it, and I don't want to speak for him, but was more of like that reuse. Like we have buildings that we were saying like, you can't put housing in it. You can't repurpose this for housing unless you rezone it. And then we make someone come here and every time we rezone it. So it's like, just like creating another barrier to repurposing a building for housing, right? Like when, like Bill Mitchell bought that, the old the Joseph's store, right? And wanted to put housing above it, like it was in the wrong zone, we had to rezone it, and because it went from an office to housing. So it's just, I think that was sort of where the thought process was, like trying to help make this a little bit more streamlined rather than piecemealed. And it doesn't mean that we have to necessarily say housing everywhere, I guess, like if that's a concern. But I think it would be great to give a solid recommendation to the council as to how we can help spur more housing development.
Yeah, I mean, my concerns remain, and I mean, just because we're looking at a particular industrial parcel and say like, well, why couldn't we? This would be fine. You know, we can't say what the other ones are doing, and we can't say what future industrial areas are going to be. And as long as the demand is outstripping the supply, you know, I think a developer is going to go for his bottom line. Yep, and I don't think that it's a solution to just blanket, say like industrial, commercial, D, whatever, like blanket thumbs up for residential development.
Yeah, I'm just going to tag on and say I agreed last time with April, and I agree again. I think it makes more sense, and I sincerely hear and appreciate, Matthew, what you said, in that we have a problem, and you think like this is a proposal that somebody's brought forward finally, and that's great. I don't know that it's just because it's a proposal and finally we have a proposal that this is the best proposal. And so I think like it might make more sense to look at specific areas, like you had said, April, and to say, okay, this area might make more sense. And I'm just sort of, I'm bolstering what you said. There may be some areas where we can say, yep, this area makes a lot of sense for these reasons, but I don't think across the board that all commercial zones or all industrial zones make sense for residential areas. And as long as they remain industrial areas or commercial areas, and we can't look into the future to say what's going to happen in those areas, we can't necessarily guarantee that these are areas that are going to be healthy areas or safe areas for people to live. And we know that certain areas aren't, which is why, you know, there are certain areas where we should steer clear of. And so the intermodal is precisely one of those areas. And so it can feel frustrating because it's a problem that has to be addressed. And it is frustrating because I'm looking at like that area over by Trafton Road, right? Like, and I hear that. I'm like, this looks like a great area. And then the response is, well, yeah, but we need clean water, and this isn't on city water, right? And then there's also that issue of transportation, right? Like we don't have public transportation. These are all really great problems that we have to address. Maybe this is a problem that we need to be looking forward to, because maybe we need to think about, and again, not easy solutions. Do we need to think about how we extend city water do we need to think about how we need to start thinking very seriously about public transportation? Because these are all interconnected. They absolutely are. But in the meantime, are there certain areas that are residential where we could say, yes, this is an area where we think, a commercial area where residential could be? Sure. And does that feel like piecemeal? Yeah. And is that complicated for developers? Yes. But I don't think, as a planning board, that our purview has to just be, like, our purview has to be what makes most sense as a whole for residents and what makes most sense for the city and what makes the most sense for keeping everyone safe and healthy and happy. And all of that is really complicated. But what isn't complicated is what I said last time, which is like, you know, if there's a facility where we say this wouldn't be a facility that would be like, if we were building here, that we think would be safe or healthy for most people because we know that we have other options, then maybe this doesn't make the most sense. And I'm in agreement. There are developers who are always going to say, the bottom line drives me. And if I'm allowed to build, I will. And that's just unfortunately the truth for some developers. That doesn't necessarily mean all developers, but we know that's the case because we can look at any given area and there are people who live in areas that are unhealthy and they get really, really, really sick. And we have to look at ourselves and say, we can't let that happen because it's easier to just put a blanket thing and say, yeah, we can put residential in every commercial or industrial area because we have a crisis. We have to say, are there areas that should be avoided because we know that they could be unhealthy?
Okay, so like I hear all of this, I truly do, but I'm trying to stick to like what the council has asked us to do, and we've not been tasked with like full zoning overhaul, unfortunately. So I think, I don't know, like, are you guys both recommending not make any changes? I guess, like, this is what I'm kind of wondering. Like, what are the recommendations here? What are you?
I'm not okay with putting, changing the ordinance for commercial zones and industrial to include residential. Not because I think, I mean, that's the answer. Not because I think that there aren't areas where it could work, but because a blanket change like that is going to mean that there's going to be undesirable outcomes down the road. I am in favor, and I don't know if this is outside of what the council then has asked us to say, but right, like this area in the south end right here, if we want to go by neighborhood blocks and do some rezoning like that, then thumbs up.
April, you're looking at around Water Street, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with you, like, that area around Water Street, I think it's ripe for apartments. It is technically a commercial zone. I think it wasn't always that way. It had something to do with the creation of the downtown TIF district, which extends down Water Street, so they needed to be commercial. I think it's.
Does that?
No, it's been zoned commercial for I think since 1971.
Yeah.
And just as a bit of background, we tried to rezone that strip to residential a few years ago, and there was a councilor who was opposed to it because he didn't like the idea of removing uses that people
Right,
were
but
allowed
the
to.
idea would be adding that use, right? Like,
Right,
we're not
right. If
asking
you were going to rezone,
anything.
if you were going to rezone that strip, which is now
commercial
mostly
A.
residential, which used to be, I think a lot of it was homes with businesses in the homes. If you wanted to rezone that to residential, then some people would feel that they were losing the right to put a commercial use in. But that was a few years ago. Maybe the sentiment has changed now. That a few years ago, all people talked about was, oh, we need more jobs, more jobs, more jobs.
Yeah.
And now all I hear is we need more housing. So it's a different time. Maybe
Yeah.
this is the time to rezone it.
But we're not doing rezoning, we're adding uses, right? So you can make it in the ordinance to say, you know, how, except along, like housing is not allowed except along Water Street. you
Okay,
know, like
okay.
something like that.
All right.
The commercial
So it
C.
wouldn't be for the whole
Yeah.
commercial C or commercial C zone, it would be only
In
V zone?
one piece, yeah.
Okay,
So
I got you.
that's like an option. Yeah, I guess I'm just like trying to get like a, what does everybody want then?
They're kind of looking for like a blanket,
Yeah.
like recommendation, right? Not.
Yeah, I mean, the entire city needs to be, like, the zoning of the city needs to be relooked
Right.
at. And like the whole thing of like, we don't know what's happening, what's gonna happen in the future, like that's the purpose of the zoning. So,
Things 50 years ago were different than they are.
Right.
You know, it's always evolving.
when was the last like zoning overhaul, Anne?
The big rezoning was in 1971.
Yeah, see, so like, it's just outdated.
And then ever
but-
since then, it's been on a case-by-case basis.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the council should, I think they're probably waiting for the comprehensive plan, right, Anne? And then that would be like.
I
that's
can
smart.
tell you that the comprehensive plan at this point doesn't recommend rezoning
Oh.
anywhere in
Interesting.
particular. So.
Interesting.
Oh, I was going to say, what about the Shaw's Plaza?
What about, you want housing in the Shaw's Plaza?
So there's, that might be an option that I would be open to, yeah.
Yeah, so we had, that would be like in,
I think that's CD.
Commercial D,
D.
yep.
Yeah. So like the idea would be if we're comfortable in adding,
No housing except in the shops.
no, adding housing to commercial D, like you have to look at the ordinance and see what,
So commercial A is the only one that allows residential
Currently.
currently. And I, yeah. Because of the noise and stuff associated with some manufacturing and warehousing. Thank you. Yep, because the contract, where was I? The commercial D zone has some things that I frankly don't think are really compatible with residential development. I wouldn't say blanket yes for commercial D to have it. I mean, there's a reason why commercial A is thumbs up, go ahead, and the other commercial zones say no. My understanding from when we were talking about the south end is that we can say, in general, no, except for this particular strip. So I guess that's what,
Right, but
how I
it's
thought we
just
were
like-
approaching things.
yeah, but it's just like not reasonable to do that like parcel by parcel. Like, we can't be like, we can't make an ordinance that's like, yes, except for on parcel like 2001-36. And like, that's just gonna be
Right, that's
overcomplicated.
That's an end of the spectrum, for sure, and not what I'm proposing. That strip there is a whole bunch of properties, so it's not like a single parcel. And the Shaws, as I understand, there have been discussions about Shaws that looks attractive for a lot of different reasons. It seems that our the housing that we're looking for right now, the folks that live in these may not have transportation, and so it's good to have them, say, near a grocery store, right? So somebody had brought that up for that particular property. I'm unclear as to whether there was an actual proposal to put something in there or not.
No.
But, I mean, if there was, or
No.
if there was some talk, then that's a parcel that, it's big. It's not, it's not like a 1/4 acre lot in the middle of a residential B that we're talking about.
So, but like the only commercial D areas are the Shaw's Plaza. Is there anything else? Ann, I don't see.
Oh, there's not very much.
Literally,
Down at the south,
contract zone.
The area that belongs to Trafton Properties off,
Is
on
com-
either side of the interstate. It's a
Which I'm
contract
hearing
zone.
everybody is comfortable with having housing at too. So it's like, can we just add it to commercial B then? I mean, it's along Water Street, it's, you know, it's
You mean commercial D?
commercial D.
No, because the way commercial D is currently written, you can have uses that are not compatible with residential. So we're causing problems for the future because someone could be putting in a use in a commercial D right next to a residence that predated it, that isn't compatible. Like, you have to think about the future, like what they could be doing in these, not what's there now. Like that, so.
But the only commercial D zone, the only parcel is the Shaw's Plaza parcel. And then like a little sliver on another, in between two commercial C zones on KMD2, it's like almost connected. And then
Trafton
there's
Road.
a little bit down, Trafton is a contract.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's a little bit over on West River Road, oh no, that's B. So the only commercial D on the zoning map is literally the parcel you're asking for.
Right here.
Is the main
So
concern?
the base zone, Sam, the base zone down on Trafton Road is commercial D. The contract, all of the conditions of the contract have been satisfied, so it's essentially just commercial D.
Is the main concern like air pollution being near, like from a health perspective on your side?
I mean, you know, noise is an issue. Yes, let's see here. Trucking, wholesaling, and warehousing, that can end up with a lot of truck traffic. You can end up with these beeping trucks all night long. Yep. I mean, there's a reason why CD, like in particular, the subsection B1 specifically says no apartments, not even homeless shelters, right? Because we're recognizing that those vulnerable populations deserve better. So,
Well, the homeless shelter is right next to the train station, which is. where you
yeah,
don't want- You know, like,
I'm not
mean,
saying I agree with that.
Yeah,
So,
but see, like, my point here is, we, in one conversation have said, we think that over by Trafton Road and right off of the exit is like prime for development, and the only zone there is rural residential and this commercial D, and then and Shaw's Plaza, which is the only other commercial D parcel in the entire city. So I don't understand why we can't add
so are you suggesting
commercial
that
D.
nobody
housing
else will
to-
ever pursue a commercial D
No, yeah, no.
zone
because-
in the city ever?
No, because there's no other zone that's commercial D, there's no other parcel that's commercial D.
So no parcel could ever be rezoned commercial D in the city, Ann?
Well, you wouldn't have to rezone it, April. Like, everything else has like, you wouldn't have to rezone it if there was a house there and it was going to be rezoned, like, and they were asking for a rezone, right? Like, if it was already, if you had residential use in it and you didn't want the rezone to go through, you wouldn't need to rezone it.
Well, I was actually suggesting something different. I really wasn't suggesting housing in commercial D. I really was suggesting in that particular plaza. So I was misunderstood, and
But
I
the
will.
only,
I'm sorry.
I know,
If I could
but no
just
one's
I
hearing
can't.
me.
I'm sorry. No one's
someone
hearing me
say-
because I was in the middle of a sentence. And if I could just finish my thought, then I'm happy to hear what you want to say. I really was just suggesting that plaza just because of the size, and someone had said sort of the access to shopping, and that seemed like a good spot. So for me, I was really just thinking about locations within Waterville. I'm really not speaking to coming up with an ordinance to putting residential and linking it to a specific type of commercial zone. And I hear what you're saying is, can we do that? What I heard April just say is we could have potentially someone at some point in time have another zone and in the future commercial D that could have any type of activity that could be a nuisance or a problem, and it could be linked to, if we say residential can be happening in these zones, and that would be a problem, and I would agree with that.
Can anybody say what I'm trying to say differently, please?
I think what you're saying is that there's so few parcels
Yeah.
within that zone that it doesn't, I mean, if somebody was going to come, they would just come to the planning board and we would,
Right, the only like parcel within commercial zone D is the Shaw's Plaza. Like, that's what I'm saying.
There are big ones over by Trafton Road,
Those
is
are
what Ann.
contract zone
No,
commercial.
no, that's not what Ann said. Ann said the base zone is D.
Yes, right. If you read the contract, the only condition was that they acquire all of the properties.
Okay.
So the contract conditions have been satisfied, so it's essentially, there are no conditions, so it's essentially the same as CD.
Right. The other thing that I was saying, though, is the other area that everybody, or that was pointed out, that was prime for development, is these parcels on Trafton Road. So that's why I was suggesting amending the commercial D zone. If you want to take away uses or future uses, I mean, maybe that's a discussion we can have, but like, that's why I was suggesting adding that zone. Like, I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible. But it is already 9 o'clock, and I don't know that we're getting anywhere right now.
Are we thinking about amending the commercial C and the commercial D?
It sounds,
zone?
I don't know.
But I would say a commercial C is generally okay, with the exception of east side of College Avenue from Colby Street up to the Fairfield line, which has the intermodal facility and the diesel exhaust and all those issues. It's pretty much isolated from, from the Colby Street, where the homeless shelter is, up to the Fairfield line.
I mean, I'm hearing different things from different people on the board, which is kind of why I was hoping we could have this vote when the whole board is here, so we can hear what everybody has to say, right? And everybody can have a say in the final vote, because I hear very conflicting things from very different people. And yeah, so I don't think we're all saying the same thing, Tom, is
Okay.
my summary of that. And I don't know what would be the best solution to try and move this forward and get it to the council.
I think your suggestion of waiting for David to come back is a good one.
David and Cassie.
I'm not sure that I understand why. There are 5 of us here right now, and there may be 4 or 5 of us here then.
Right, that's why I'm
I think it's
also
because it's
frustrated.
9 o'clock and maybe.
Yeah, and we're
We've
just
had
beating
enough.
around a bush, and no, like, if you have a motion that you want to vote on tonight, we can. I'm not hearing any motion or actions or.
I'm sorry, I thought April had a motion. Or was sort of formulating one, at least with regard to the south end, did you?
Can I make a motion to rezone Water
We
Street?
can't rezone anything. We can't
Okay.
rezone it.
Okay,
because
then I don't have a motion.
If we rezone things, we have to, like, that's a whole different thing that the council has to send to us, and to rezone things, and we'd have to notify everybody.
That's
and-
correct.
And
Then can I make?
rezoning is hard because.
That's fine, we don't have to do that.
No, you're, just, please let me finish, because I'm getting increasingly frustrated. So rezoning is difficult because we're gonna be taking away uses that people have on that, on those parcels.
Yep.
So that is why we are not looking to rezone.
Okay. Can we make a motion to amend the ordinance for commercial C along Water Street to allow housing.
We could, if you want to make that motion. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Okay,
Opposed?
I'm sorry. Could we do this again? We had, April made a motion, and who seconded? Tom seconded. And the vote was
It was
3 to
Harmony
2.
and, yeah.
3-2
And
in
I
favor of
opposed.
adding residential uses to the commercial C zone, but only along
Water.
Water
Yeah.
Street. Okay.
So I guess if you can add that to the memo, because we have to like send back recommendations to the council.
Is this wording on here directly from the council? I mean, could we get a little more clarity maybe on specifically what they're looking to task us with?
Well, I think this really came from Sam and Rian, so it might be nice to have Rian.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Give us some input.
Ryan's out of town for a family emergency, so he's just not going to be able to make the meetings for a couple weeks at least. I don't know when he's coming back. But, I mean, I feel like I've kind of summarized. His idea was it's more geared towards the adaptive reuse of some of these existing structures that we have, that we end up contract zoning or rezoning one by one that used to be housing or already exist, or some of them already have non-conforming apartments in them, or what have you, to just kind of like make it a little bit more cohesive, rather than having non-conforming apartments that then if they decide to upgrade the bathroom, they're non-conforming and they have to come get rezoned. Like, these are like sort of the challenges that we face that we were trying to mitigate, I guess. Yeah, so that's sort of, I think, where the thought came from. Yeah. Yeah, so Ann, I guess if you can, for the next meeting, maybe work on, I don't know, like some sort of memo or whatever that we would send to
So
the
we're not going to
council.
send this to the council until we have further discussion about other zones, but
Yeah.
this will be in the minutes as,
Because we'll have to like type up some sort of memo, right?
Yes.
Like you did with the parking
yes.
for the other zones too, because they want to know about other, all commercial.
Okay, so we're going to submit this all together later.
I think so.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Do you mean that we're going to vote on it next time?
No, you already voted on this
On
aspect.
that
This
aspect?
aspect, yeah. The parking for downtown apartments already had its first vote at the council because we voted to send that separately.
So just to be clear, because we were talking about waiting to have other members of the board here to express opinions. So that will happen next time when we are developing a memo to send to the council.
Yeah, I guess like everybody can give their input. I mean, I'm in favor of just adding it at this point, to be completely honest, because I'm like, this is becoming very complicated. So I'm just in favor of adding it because I don't know how we can pick and choose certain areas, but that would be my choice.
Right,
point.
okay, I was just, if we're, yeah. I was unclear on a point where we were saying like, oh, we want the full complement of the board here, to vote on it, like, that's fine if we want to say that. It's just, we're going to have to schedule that. We can't just say next time because some of us might not be able to be here.
I know, it's becoming really difficult to get the board to come to meetings, so I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know what else to do. I guess just send that to the council, and we'll, if they want more, we can they can send it back, and we'll figure it out from there.
Okay, well, do you want to continue, I'll send this part to the council. Do you want to continue to discuss the other zones at another meeting, or?
I guess the board should vote, because I don't want to make that decision for everybody.
I feel like we've had 2 discussions on this, so if I understand correctly, our chair is saying send it to the council? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
She said to send what you just voted
Yep.
on to the council.
Yeah.
My question was, do you want to continue the discussion of adding apartments to other commercial zones at another meeting? Or is this it for now?
I have a question. Has anybody spoken to Grafton Properties or anybody in the commercial D zone? Are they at all interested?
Yes, I spoke with Harry Kajoyan, who represents the owners, and they are interested in adding housing, but they want to add a factory first. I think that's the first step. So the factory would be closer to West River Road, and then the water and sewer lines would be extended farther to the west.
And water and sewer district are on board with extending service? into
As
that?
long as Trapton Properties pays for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want to add housing into the rural part of their zone?
Well, wherever you allow them to.
Yeah.
Initially, they were considering adding housing in the zone where it's already rural residential, where it's already allowed. And that is off 8 Rod Road, relatively close to Webb Road.
Yeah.
But as you know, the utilities aren't extended.
Right.
Well, I guess the sewer line goes down Webb Road, but the water line doesn't.
Right.
And then you would have to extend the water and sewer down 8 Rod Road. But if you were on Trapton Road and they extended water and sewer for a factory, then they would just have to extend it that much farther
Yeah.
for housing. And just to clarify, the housing that would be allowed on the Water Street strip in the CC zone, are we talking about, we're just talking about apartments, right? But that's the part of the ordinance we're amending, because the ordinance now says apartments are not allowed.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay.
So I guess we have to decide if we're closing the conversation or not. So I motion that we will continue looking at the other zones in our next meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
So, okay, I'm sorry, April, did you have your hand? I didn't catch what your vote was.
I was gesticulating because I'm like, ugh. Yeah, I'm gonna oppose.
Opposed. 3 in favor, 1 opposed. Are you abstaining?
I'm opposed.
You're opposed, okay.
We've had the discussion twice. Yep.
Okay. Three in favor, 2 opposed. Okay. Okay, so given that we don't have a quorum yet, we're not sure which meeting, but it will be continuing at the next meeting. So not a date certain. Okay, so before you leave, if you all could sign the 2 findings of fact forms?
Yep.
Please?
I think they're all signed. Did you sign, Hillary? Okay.
And everybody signed 52 Water Street? Did you sign that, Hillary?
I will sign it. I will.
Do we have any other, do we have Popo's food truck?
I'm not sure. Popo's food truck has to be amended
Oh,
to...
yeah, it'll have to be amended, okay.
So you wouldn't sign that one, and then, I don't know if he put 76 Pleasant Street over there or not.
Oh, just signed 76 Pleasant Street when I come to do Popo's food truck.
Thank you, Tom.
This right here.
Oh,
There
you
were
didn't?
2.
Yep.
I just want to make sure.
Here.
I got that one.
Oh, you did? Okay.
This one.